Today's High Performance Podcast is brought to you by Phegan Digital. It's the only place that you'll find our expansive resource library. Every form, checklist, visual and dialogue that you'll ever need to systemize your business. Available to edit in PDF to rapidly take your business to the next level. Welcome to High Performance, the podcast featuring Phegan and Alexander Phillips. Alexander, we've got a great conversation today about what it really takes to get ahead. I think like a lot of agents are in that position that, they have one good year and they think that every year is going to be exactly the same. They don't necessarily adjust to the conditions. The lifestyle's up at that level. The income all of a sudden drops. They get themselves in a position where maybe they start to resent the industry a bit and start to resent where they're at rather than actually moving the strategy or changing what it is that they're doing to make sure they're still successful. What are some basic disciplines that agents could put in place to make sure that they're also financially successful, even though they're earning good income and knowing when they're getting lucky and when a good income year is, and not to get too carried away with that money when all of a sudden it might be a better market or an easier market than some of the conditions that we face today?
Yeah, hi Josh, thanks for having me again. I think obviously agents can earn endless amounts of money and probably spend it as well. I think probably the perception is of having the cars and the holidays and the watches and all that sort of stuff does it into how much you're going to potentially save. I look back at when I bought my first apartment when I was 22, and when I started, I had a goal to save $100,000. So I set up a Colonial First Aid account, which I still have today.
Colonial still exists.
Yeah, but they're great. Like it does 10 to 20% per annum.
Wow. Okay.
So it's across all indexes. So all the stock exchanges, the US, Australian, European markets. So it's something that I still have today. So I had a goal of like a certain amount of money per sale I would put into that. I did that and I hit the target and I bought my first apartment. And then I went, okay, what's next? And you redo it again and do it again. I think it's about making sure you do have a financial plan. Firstly, making sure you pay your taxes. I think a lot of agents, again, aren't great at doing that. So making sure you've got a lot of money going to your tax, have a certain amount put aside per sale. You can do a dollar amount or percentage amount and mentally just have that in your head, because I think I've seen, and you also see a lot of sports stars and people where they've actually retired with nothing. And I think that could happen with real estate agents, even good ones, if they haven't put enough aside or bought enough, houses over the years, or invested in other parts of of the economy.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, I think it was the book The Richest Man in Babylon, and they said like 10% of all of your income should go into a savings account that you never ever touch, and so you got to pay yourself first, before you do anything else. Yeah. So that way, if you're saying, let's assume that you're making $1,000 a week, that you're putting $100 a week into a specific savings account, and that you're not doing anything else with that. And that money's there, like called peace of mind money. It allows you to actually build investments over a period of time. You can go from a bank account into like a managed ETF, which we're talking about, or then you can go out and buy your own shares, or you can go and buy a property, or you can go and do other things. But it is really important to actually make sure that you get ahead. One of the great conversations with people is about like learning how to get that income to grow more. And some of that is about living a little bit below your means. And there's an interesting conversation that ultimately you see that, hey, when is a reward versus just a standard of living? How do you actually make sure that you stay balanced with that? Because to say that the income has grown quite significantly, but you've still got to make sure that you're putting money aside and that you're paying off your debt on your investments and those things.
I think by having I bought like quite large investments with a lot of debt, and that just forces you, because it's almost like forced savings.
Yes, yeah.
And that you got to put aside a certain amount per month to pay those off. So I see, in some ways, if you're buying good real estate and you're paying off that mortgage, you try and pay it off quick. That's your forced savings. So I think that also pushes you as an agent to probably be a better agent, because you've got, that sort of stress of a mortgage to pay off.
And this is the whole conversation around like behaviours, right? So one of the simple things that I would say to people is like, okay, imagine you have a bank account and you set up a couple of separate bank accounts. So one for a holiday account, one for a savings account, one for a car account, one for your first child account, whatever the story might be. And you automatically have that deduction coming out every week. So whatever the amount is, over a period of time, you'll be amazed around what that actually does. And I think it's a really important foundational idea that if you want to be a great agent, you've got to also make sure that you're
financially successful.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we also do is that sometimes we recommend that, working with your principal or your business owner, to actually not pull all of your commission at the same time.
Yeah.
So actually have some of that sitting inside of the general account that you've got access to. So you have $50,000 sitting in the business, so to speak, that you can use to pay for your first assistant or your second assistant to give you confidence when the business actually needs the growth.
Right.